Um, I want to start today with a question that's, well, it's hiding inside almost every philosophy book,
Okay.
every self-help guide, and honestly, probably every crisis you've ever had in your life.
Hmm.
It's a bit of a provocative one. Who is actually in control?
And just to be completely clear here, we don't mean who is in control of the government or the economy or the weather. We aren't doing conspiracies today.
Right, no. We mean right now, in your head.
Uh,
Who is pulling the levers of your choices?
uh-huh.
Not who should be in control,
Mm-hmm.
and not the best version of you put on your resume, or, the version you promised to be on New Year's Eve.
The aspirational you.
Exactly. But who's actually driving the bus when you snap at your spouse? Or when you doom scroll for an hour instead of just going to sleep? Or when you sit down to do deep work and suddenly find yourself, I don't know, reorganizing your entire kitchen?
It's the fundamental question of human agency, really. And if we look at the stack of sources we've brought for today's deep dive, the answer for most people, most of the time, is usually the waves.
The waves. Yeah, we're going to get into that metaphor pretty heavily today. Welcome to the deep dive, everyone.
It's a great topic.
It is. And we have a fascinating, and I have to say, somewhat weird stack of sources today. We're calling this concept the architecture of a well-lived life.
I like that title.
Thanks. We're pulling from Roman emperors, modern productivity gurus like Cal Newport and Jim Quell, and even management theorists like Peter Drucker.
It does sound like a really strange dinner party, doesn't it? Marcus Aurelius sitting next to a modern corporate consultant.
Passing the salt to Peter Drucker.
Right. But there is a very strong thread connecting all of them. It's about moving from being the water, which is reactive, fluid, chaotic, to being the rock.
I really like the sound of that. But before we get to the solution, let's nail down the problem. What exactly do the sources mean when they say we are the water?
So, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, he utilized this imagery of the headland, the rock, and the waves. He observed that most of us are the water. We get picked up by an email, spun around by a mood, crashed against the shore by a piece of bad news, and then just sucked back out to sea.
We're purely reactive.
Exactly. We have no solid foundation.
It's that feeling of waking up and immediately checking your phone, and suddenly your entire mood for the day is dictated by whatever happened to be on the screen.
Yes. In the source material, they refer to these disturbances as the passions. Now, in modern English, passion usually sounds like a good thing, right? Like romantic love or a hobby you're really passionate about.
Right, follow your passion.
Exactly. But for the Stoics, the passions meant the reactive emotions. Anxiety, irritation, manic excitement, dread.
So the stuff that basically hijacks you.
Right. And the problem isn't that we have them. I mean, human biology guarantees we will have them. You will feel anger. You will feel fear.
You can't turn that off.
No, you can't. The problem is that they own us. We bleed our energy into every single disturbance that passes through our day. If you are the water, you have no shape of your own. You just take the shape of whatever container or whatever crisis you're poured into.
So the mission of this deep dive today is to figure out how to stop being tossed around. How do we build an architecture, a structure that lets us stand firm?
That's the goal.
And to do that, we have to figure out who we actually are. Which brings us to one of the stickiest concepts in this stack, Stephen Pressfield's 5 Eyes.
Oh, this is a great place to start because it really challenges the monolithic idea of identity. We tend to think, I am me, singular. One driver behind the wheel.
Right.
But Pressfield argues that when we say I, we're actually conflating 5 different entities operating in the same brain.
Okay, let's unpack these.
Yeah.
Because I think most of us operate primarily from the first one, and we just assume that's all there is to us.
Completely. The first I is the ego. This is the reasoning intellect. It's the version of you that worries about your schedule, checks your social media likes, manages social expectations, and holds the grudges.
It's the committee meeting in your head.
The committee meeting, yes.
The noisy one. The one that keeps me up at 3 in the morning replaying a conversation from, like, 2014 where I said something slightly awkward.
Precisely. And the thing is, the ego is necessary for survival. It keeps you from walking into traffic or getting fired. But it is terrified of the world. It's defensive. It's always keeping score.
Constantly.
But then, if you've ever done yoga or meditation, or even just zoned out while driving on a long stretch of highway, you meet the second I.
Okay, what's that one?
This is the witness, the part of you that can step back and say, wow, my mind is really racing right now.
Right, the observer.
Yeah.
The one that isn't the thought itself, but is aware of the thought. That always trips me up a bit.
Yeah.
Because if I'm watching my thoughts, then who exactly is watching?
Exactly. That gap right there is where freedom begins. And you can go even deeper. There's a third eye that watches the witness, basically metacognition, and a fourth eye that stands in for us in our dreams.
That's a bit wild to think about.
It is, but Pressfield says the most crucial one, the one we are truly trying to unlock to build this well-lived life, is the fifth eye.
The fifth eye. I have to admit, this sounds a little bit mystical. Is this just creative mumbo-jumbo, or is there something scientifically real here?
It's very real, and you've definitely felt it. Pressfield often refers to it as the muse or the daemon, but you might know it better as flow.
Oh, the flow state.
Yes, this is the self that writes the books, starts the companies, creates the art, or solves that really complex engineering problem. It operates completely independently of the ego.
It doesn't care about the committee meeting?
Not at all. It has nothing to prove. It doesn't care about social status. It just does the work.
There's a quote in the source material where someone asks Pressfield if he gets lonely working alone in a room all day. And he says, no, because I'm with this other me.
That's the key. The fifth eye is the source of your absolute best work. It's the one we want in the driver's seat. But the conflict and really the struggle of the well-lived life is that for most of us, the fifth eye only shows up in flashes.
Right.
Maybe on a really long walk, or during a sleepless night, or in a moment of deep grief, when the ego finally just shuts up because it's totally overwhelmed.
The goal is to make that fifth eye the default setting rather than just a rare visitor.
Yes.
But let's be realistic here. The ego's loud. It's incredibly reactive.
Yeah.
It wants to scream at the guy who cut us off in traffic. It wants to reply to that rude email immediately.
Impatiently.
So how do we actually manage that reactivity?
This leads us to a specific tool from our sources, and it comes from a really surprising place, Abraham Lincoln's desk drawer.
I love this story so much. It's such a human moment for a guy we usually only see as a giant marble statue.
It really is. This is a powerful, practical application of Stoicism, even though Lincoln wasn't explicitly a Stoic philosopher. Context is important here. Lincoln was leading a nation at war with itself. You can imagine the stress, the incompetence of his generals, the political betrayals. He would get absolutely furious.
And naturally, the first wants to scream and yell. There's a specific story in the text about General Meade, right, after the Battle of Gettysburg.
Yes. So Robert E. Lee was retreating. The river was swollen with rain. Lee was trapped. Lincoln ordered General Meade to attack and end the war right there.
A decisive moment.
And Meade hesitated. He held a council of war. He delayed. And Lee escaped across the river. The war went on for years longer because of that.
Lincoln must have been apoplectic.
He was devastated. He was furious. So he sat down at his desk and wrote a letter to Meade. And it was scathing. He basically told him, "You have prolonged the war indefinitely. I am distressed beyond measure." He poured all his vitriol, his flawless logic, his raw anger into that page. He let the first eye have its full say.
But he never sent it.
He folded it up, wrote to General Meade, never on the outside of the envelope, and put it in his drawer. They found it there after he died.
But play devil's advocate with me for a second. Isn't that just repression?
How so?
Well, isn't bottling it up bad for you? Isn't the modern psychological advice to always let it out so it doesn't fester?
That's the crucial nuance here. He didn't bottle it up. He wrote the letter. He externalized the emotion onto the paper. He honored the feeling without outsourcing his dignity to it.
That's a great distinction.
Repression is pretending you aren't angry. Regulation is feeling the anger, letting it exist, but choosing not to act on it in a destructive way. He created a buffer.
The rock does not hold grudges against the sea.
And exactly. He let the wave pass around him. If he had sent that letter, Meade might have resigned, and the entire army would have been thrown into chaos.
Right.
The first, I would have felt vindicated for about 5 minutes, but the long-term cost would have been a total disaster.
This connects directly to another giant in our stack today, Seneca. Because sometimes writing a letter just isn't enough.
Sometimes the body is too agitated.
Exactly. Sometimes the physiological arousal, the adrenaline, is just too high to sit at a desk. You're physically shaking. Seneca had a prescription for this exact state.
It is solved by walking. Solvitur ambulando.
We often think of walking as just exercise or maybe a leisure activity, but our sources point out the actual neuroscience happening here. It's not just about burning calories.
No, and this is where modern science perfectly backs up ancient philosophy. It's about a concept called optic flow.
Optic flow.
Yes, when you walk forward, images pass by your eyes. This lateral eye movement actually quiets the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain. Movement physically metabolizes stress products in the blood.
That is fascinating.
When you are stuck in that reactive, clenched first eye state, you literally cannot think your way out of it. You have to move your way out of it.
So just walking on a treadmill at the gym doesn't quite do the same thing if you're just staring at a blank wall.
The sources suggest the wandering walk is best. The visual input of the world moving past you is the key trigger. It loosens the grip of the ego. It allows that fifth eye to bubble back up to the surface. It's basically a way of buying time. Lincoln bought time with his desk drawer. Seneca bought time with his feet.
So we have the rock philosophy, we have the walking. But what about when the fear itself kicks in? Because usually behind the anger, behind all the passions, there's an underlying fear.
Always.
One of our sources breaks this down with a really useful acronym, FEAR.
Fear.
This is a fantastic tactical tool for when the wave is actively crashing over you. Let's say you get a cryptic email from your boss. We need to talk, 4 p.m.
Oh, immediate panic. Heart rate spikes to 120.
Right. So the F stands for face the fear. Don't let it operate from the shadows. Acknowledge it out loud. I am feeling afraid right now. Don't pretend you're cool and collected when you aren't.
Then E, explore it. Right. Get curious about it. Why am I reacting this way? Is it because I feel disrespected? Is it because I feel fundamentally unsafe? Is it because my first eye is worried about looking stupid in front of the team?
I'm afraid I'm getting fired.
Exactly. Drill down to the root. Then A, accept it. And this is the part people really struggle with, because acceptance sounds like rolling over and giving up.
Yeah, it sounds like defeat.
It's not defeat. It's accepting it as a present condition, not a permanent identity. You are feeling fear right now. You are not a fearful person.
It's the difference between I have a cold and I am a cold.
That's a perfect way to put it. You accept that the weather in your head is stormy right now, but the storm will pass.
And finally R, respond.
Respond without judgment. And this links back to a very deep point made by Thomas Merton in our sources regarding how we view our enemies, the people who are supposedly causing these waves. When we want to send that scathing Lincoln letter, we often assume the other person is a savage.
Right. We assume they're attacking us purely out of malice. My boss hates me. That guy cut me off because he's just a terrible person.
But Merton suggests a totally different view. Perhaps they are simply afraid of you. Perhaps they are lashing out because they think you are the savage.
Wow.
If we can come from that fifth eye, that stable, rock-like place, we might realize that the enemy is just another wave, and you don't judge the ocean for having waves.
That is a massive shift in perspective. But before we get too high-minded and philosophical here, I want to pivot slightly, because our sources make a pretty hard turn at this point.
Yes, they do.
You can have all the philosophy in the world, you can know all the acronyms, but if you haven't slept in 24 hours, you're not going to be a stoic. You're going to be a podler.
A cranky toddler.
Yeah.
This is what we call the substrate. You simply cannot access the fifth eye if your biological machinery is broken.
Dr. Kenneth Wesson lists the non-negotiables for this. Water, exercise, sleep, stress management, stimulation, oxygen, nutrition, and a positive attitude.
It sounds so basic, almost boring, right? But think about how many times you have felt like your entire life was falling apart, just pure existential dread, career panic, only to realize a few hours later that you were just dehydrated and sleep deprived.
Way more often than I'd like to admit. Usually around 4 in the afternoon on a Thursday. I'll think I need to quit my job, but really I just need a glass of water.
Exactly. The source material calls this the biological foundation. If you ignore this, you are trying to build a skyscraper on a swamp. If your brain is inflamed and starved of oxygen, that survival brain is going to win every single time.
Because it has to.
Right. It thinks you're dying. It has to take over to protect you.
Cal Newport throws in a really great metaphor here regarding the stimulation part of that list. He says reading and writing are push-ups and pull-ups for the brain.
Which I just love. We totally accept that the physical body needs training to be strong, but we often treat the mind as this static thing that just exists. We doom scroll and consume junk info calories all day, and then we wonder why we can't focus on a hard task for more than 5 minutes. The mind needs resistance training too.
Speaking of training the mind, let's talk about what the sources call the master skill. One of our experts, Jim Quia, focuses on memory, but he argues that memory is actually just a downstream effect of something else entirely.
Attention.
Yes. He uses the acronym MOM, Motivation Observation Methods, but the O observation is where the real gold is here.
He says there is no such thing as a bad memory, only bad attention.
That hits hard. I hear people say I'm bad with names all the time. But Kuik is saying, no, you just weren't listening when they introduced themselves.
Precisely. You were stuck in your first eye, thinking about what you were going to say next, or worrying about how you looked, or wondering if your fly was down. You weren't present.
You were somewhere else.
And this connects right back to the Lincoln and Seneca points. You cannot choose a stoic response to a wave if you aren't paying enough attention to actually notice the wave coming in the first place.
It says here in the text that attention is actually an act of love.
It is. To be fully present with someone, to actually hear them, not just wait for your turn to speak, is one of the rarest gifts you can give a person today. And you can't do that if your attention is fractured. So reading, writing, walking without your phone, these aren't just quaint hobbies. They're actively training your attention to stay exactly where you put it.
So we've got the identity piece, finding the fifth eye. We've got the emotional regulation being the rock. We've got the biology and the attention training. Now, how do we balance all this? Because we still have real lives, we have jobs to do. We can't just walk around contemplating existence and drinking water all day long. We have deliverables.
True. This is where the deep dive gets really interesting for me. We switch from ancient philosophy to Peter Drucker, the legendary management theorist. He has this fascinating theory about the three dimensions of a corporation, and our sources map it perfectly onto the individual.
This is a bit abstract, so let's break it down carefully for everyone. Drucker looked at the German model, the Japanese model, and the American model of business.
He did. And he wasn't just talking about geography or culture. He was talking about what those systems optimized for. He said the German model prioritized the social dimension, stability, community, the institution itself, the idea that the company takes care of the town.
Okay, got it. And the Japanese model?
The Japanese model prioritized the human dimension, relationships, extreme loyalty, lifetime employment. You don't just join a company, you join a family.
And the American model?
The economic dimension. Results, shareholder value, profit, the bottom line above all else.
Right. And Drucker's main point was that all of them failed when they focused on only one of those dimensions to the exclusion of the others.
Exactly. The American model works great in fair weather, but it has zero loyalty. When the money stops flowing, the company collapses because nobody actually trusts each other. The German model had amazing stability, but became incredibly rigid and bureaucratic. It couldn't adapt to new markets. The Japanese model had perfect harmony, but struggled to make hard, necessary changes because they didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings or disrupt the family.
And the application to us, to you listening right now, is that we do the exact same thing in our personal lives. We tend to optimize our lives for just one dimension.
Think about the person who optimizes only for the economic dimension, the modern grind-set mentality. They are disciplined, they get results, they make a ton of money. They are pure American model. But they are hollow, they are efficient but empty. They win the game, but they completely lose their soul.
And then what about the person who optimizes only for the human dimension, the Japanese model individual?
They prioritize being liked, being warm and accommodating. But they can't make hard calls. They just drift. They have no boundaries. They are the nice guy who finishes last because they can't assert themselves. They sacrifice their own growth just to keep everyone around them happy.
And the social dimension. The German model applied to a person.
That's the performer, the person who lives entirely for the gram. They become a mirror, just reflecting what society wants, preserving their status at all costs. They do what they are supposed to do. They have the picket fence and the impressive job title, but there's absolutely no substance behind it. It's all image and stability.
So the goal of the integrated self is to have all three operating at once.
Yeah.
You need the intense discipline of the American model, the genuine warmth of the Japanese model, and the structural stability of the German model.
Exactly. Discipline without warmth is brittle and alienating. Warmth without discipline is just wishful thinking. Stability without results is stagnation. You need to be effective, but you also need to be human, and you need to be stable.
That sounds incredibly hard. It sounds like trying to spin 3 plates at once while walking across a tightrope. How do we actually do this in real life?
It is hard. That's why we call it the architecture of a well-lived life and not 3 easy steps to happiness. It requires construction. But that brings us to the actual strategy for building this. It's not about a massive overhaul of your personality overnight. It's about AMWAP.
AMWAP, AMWAP, as many wins as possible.
Yes. This is the absolute antidote to the overwhelm of trying to be perfect. It's the daily practice of micro-victories, doing the 1 push-up, writing the one journal entry, putting the angry letter in the drawer instead of sending it, the single moment you chose to listen instead of interrupt your partner. These aren't just nice little good deeds, they are data points.
Data points for what, exactly?
Data points for your identity. James Clear talks about this concept too. Every time you capture a small win, you are literally casting a vote for the type of person you want to be. You are proving to yourself that you are the kind of person who follows through.
It fights back against the first I, doesn't it? Because the ego loves to tell you, oh, you're lazy, you're a mess, you'll never change.
Exactly. And you cannot argue with the ego using logic. It will always out-argue you. You have to argue with hard evidence. I'm lazy. Well, I just did 10 push-ups. I'm a mess. I just spent 5 minutes organizing my desk. You build the rock pebble by pebble.
There's that great Arnold Palmer quote in our notes. He said, it's a funny thing, the more I practice, the luckier I get.
Because luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. And preparation is just a massive pile of small wins. You build the rock pebble by pebble. You don't just wake up one morning magically transformed into Marcus Aurelius. You build it by not sending the letter, by taking the walk when you're stressed, by drinking the water.
So let's look at the full picture here. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have. We started with the biological substrate, getting the sleep, drinking the water, moving the body, because without that, nothing else works. The brain goes into survival mode.
Then we build the scaffolding with discipline, the AMWAP strategy, the daily habits, the resistance training for the mind.
Then we actively apply our attention, that master skill that lets us actually be present in our life and notice the waves before they hit us.
And if we do all of that, we create the right conditions for the fifth eye, that creative, independent, calm self, to finally take the wheel.
Exactly. And I think that's the most crucial distinction to make. It's not about forcing the fifth eye to appear on command. You can't just command inspiration or demand flow. It's about building a house where it actually wants to live.
I love the metaphor from Sophie Sweatsheen in our notes for this. She said, to have ideas is to gather flowers. To think is to weave them into garlands.
It's a beautiful reminder, listening to this deep dive. That's gathering the flowers. You have a basket full of great ideas now. Pressfield, Lincoln, Drucker, Seneca. Thinking that's the weaving, you have to sit with this material. You have to figure out how these specific flowers fit into your specific life.
We can't weave the garland for you.
No, we really can't. We can only hand you the flowers.
Which brings us to the final thought I want to leave everyone with today. It's from Abraham Lincoln again. And honestly, it's probably the most challenging thing he said in our sources. He said, you have to do your own growing, no matter how tall your grandfather was.
That is the ultimate takeaway right there. Your grandfather's height, or your mentor's wisdom, or even the insights from his deep dive that is just information. It is not inheritance.
You cannot inherit the rock. You have to build it yourself.
You have to do your own growing.
So as you go back into the waves today, and the waves are definitely coming, ask yourself who's in control. And remember, you always have a drawer for the letters you shouldn't send. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.